Hi, this is Know Your Worth Part 4. This is rewiring your mind. So let me ask you something. Have you ever sat alone in your house? The TV's on, but you're not watching it. Your phone is in your hand, but you're not even texting anyone. And you just feel empty. Not tired, not sad exactly, just empty. Like something inside you has shut down. But then out of nowhere, the tears come. And you don't even know why. You're still functioning. You're still going to work. You're still taking care of the patients, but inside something feels broken. And you keep asking yourself one question: why can't I fix this? Why can't I think my way out of this? Why can't I pray my way out of this? Why can't I just push through like I always have? But here's the truth most of us never get told. When your brain and nervous system have been living in survival mode for years, willpower alone will not get you out. And I know that because I've lived there. There was a season in my life where I was living alone. The house was quiet, it's too quiet. I would come home after a shift, set down my bag, and just sit there. No energy, no motivation. I would turn the TV on just to feel the silence, but I wasn't really watching it. My mind felt numb, but at the same time, I would cry. And I didn't even understand why. I remember sitting there thinking, what is wrong with me? I'm a nurse. I take care of people for a living. I understand the body, but I could not understand what was happening in my own mind. I tried everything I knew. I tried pushing through. I tried ignoring it. Tried telling myself to be stronger. Tried praying harder, but nothing seemed to change. And what I didn't understand then was this: I wasn't weak. I wasn't broken. My brain and nervous system were just stuck in survival mode, and I didn't even know it. Looking back now, I realize I had been living in that way for years, long before COVID, long before the chaos nurses experienced during the pandemic. My nervous system had been running on stress and responsibility for so long that survival mode felt normal. So let me ask you something honestly. Have you ever walked into your house after a shift and just sat there in silence? Not because you wanted quiet, but because you had absolutely nothing left to give, nothing left to say, nothing left to feel, just completely drained. If that's you, you're not broken. Your nervous system has been carrying too much for too long. When the brain lives in constant stress, it rewires itself around survival. Your brain is trying to protect you, but it does that by creating patterns. Patterns like always being on edge, always expecting something to go wrong, feeling responsible for everything, never truly relaxing, pushing through exhaustion. These patterns become automatic. Your brain is literally running a program. How many of you ever feel like your brain never shuts off? You finally lay down at night, your body is exhausted, But here goes your brain, starts replaying everything: patients, families, conversations, things you wish you would have done differently, or things you're worrying about that are going to happen tomorrow. If that happens to you, that's not weakness. That's a nervous system stuck in a stress loop. I remember sitting in my living room one night and the house was silent, and I had this overwhelming feeling that everything felt heavy. Not physically heavy, emotionally heavy. Nothing dramatic had happened that day, but I felt drained in a way that sleep couldn't fix. And a thought crossed my mind that honestly scared me. What if I can't keep living like this? I was thinking about quitting life, but I knew something inside me had to change. At one point, I truly believed the only solution was to leave bedside nursing. I thought if I can just get out of the hospital, everything would be better. So I started looking into other ways to use my nursing skills. And that's when I discovered legal nurse consulting, reviewing medical records, working with attorneys, writing reports, and I thought to myself, this is my way out. But let me ask you something. How many times have you ever thought about leaving nursing? Not because you don't care about your patients, but because you're just so tired. Tired of carrying everything. Tired of always being the strong one. I believed leaving nursing was the answer. But what I discovered later changed everything. The job wasn't what was breaking me. The survival patterns in my brain were. During that season, I was introduced to something that changed my life: mindset work, learning about neuroplasticity, learning that the brain can actually rewire itself. Neuroplasticity simply means your brain changes based on the thoughts and experiences it repeats. If your brain has practiced stress for years, those pathways become automatic. But the brain can also learn new patterns. It can learn calm, peace, focus, stability. Scripture actually describes this perfectly. Romans 12:2 says, "Be transformed by the renewing of your mind." That is exactly what this process is: renewing the mind, replacing survival patterns with healthier ones. I remember the first time my mind became quiet during a guided meditation. My body relaxed, my thoughts slowed down, and for a moment, my mind was calm. No racing thoughts, no emotional chaos, just stillness. And I remember thinking, is this what peace feels like? When you've lived in survival mode for years, calm can feel unfamiliar. But that moment showed me something powerful. My brain wasn't broken. My nervous system just needed to learn a new pattern. Another concept that helped me understand healing is something called gestalts. A gestalt is an unresolved emotional experience. Examples can include painful memories, stressful events, unresolved conversations, guilt, shame, anger, disappointment. Every experience like that gets stored emotionally in your brain. Think of it like a bucket. Every stressful moment drops into the bucket. And most nurses don't empty that bucket. And over time, it fills up and it eventually overflows. And when it overflows, you start seeing symptoms like burnout, emotional exhaustion, irritability, anxiety, numbness, feeling overwhelmed by small things. Think about everything you've carried over the years: patients who died, families grieving, moments you had to stay strong even when you're falling apart inside. Now ask yourself something honestly. Where do all those emotions go? Because nurses are trained to keep moving, but those emotions don't disappear. They stay stored in the nervous system until they're processed and released. Healing happens when you begin clearing that emotional buildup. And that might look like guided meditation, prayer, forgiveness, identifying false beliefs, and releasing stored emotions. In Psalms 23:3, he says, He restores my soul. Restoration means something that was worn down being brought back to life again. Even after healing begins, negative thoughts will still appear sometimes, and that's normal. But now you know how to interrupt them. You can reset, you can breathe, and you can return to truth. Philippians 4:8 says, Whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, think about these things. This is instruction for renewing the mind. Because of this work, my life looks very different today. I still work bedside nursing and I love it. Um, I've written books and I'm writing more books, and I teach workshops and I coach nurses, and I get to use the gifts God placed inside of me. But the biggest change is internal. My mind is clearer. My nervous system is calmer. I feel grounded, and I finally understand my worth. So let me ask you one more question. What would your life look like if your mind finally became quiet again? If your body could relax? If you could go to work and still have energy left for your own life? If you didn't feel like you were holding everything together all the time? Because that kind of life is possible. But healing requires support, community, guidance. If something in this conversation resonates with you, I want to invite you to take the next step. Inside my programs, we walk through these processes together: burnout reset, nervous system restoration, worth and identity recovery. You learn how to calm your nervous system, clear emotional weight, renew your thinking, and finally step out of survival mode. So if you're ready for that, I invite you to book a free clarity call with me. We'll talk about where you're at right now and what healing could look like for you. I also want to invite you to join my Facebook community where nurses are having real conversations about burnout and recovery. You do not have to carry everything alone anymore. Your mind can be renewed. Your nervous system can heal. And you can finally feel steady again. Thank you for watching. Have a blessed day and give yourself grace.